Hello, lovelies. Hello, family. I'm back. This is Kimberly Purpoz, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to do a continuation of this other video that I've done. I'm on the page. Well, it's the name of the video is North American Aborigines, Southeast Woodland Indians. So I wanted to do a continuation of part 2 to this particular video. And this is part 1 that I'm showing you is this picture right here. And then with part 2, I'm going to have a another picture up. And so let me click you on to here. This let's see. Yeah, here I am. For those of y'all, this is my chakra necklaces that are coming soon to the Purpose Healing Our Star. The necklace and the headband that goes with it, with the feather. And here's the other one. This is the amethyst chakra stone and the clear stone. So I'll keep you guys posted. I'm still working on it. I'm gonna have it for you all soon. But anyway, let's get back to this article. Now, with this particular article, I chose this article because a lot of these articles that are from encyclopedias are articles that our young people will often use, such as middle schoolers and high school students as uses references in order to get a better understanding about the American Indians, the American Aborigines. And so I wanted to see what they're saying and see if they're inclusive of the American Aborigines. And of course, we still don't see much about the American Aborigines because the whole history have been brainwashed. Now, when I did the first two, if you haven't watched the part 1, you may want to go to part 1 of the video. I'm going to put a link to the first video for you guys. I recorded it last week in October 2018. So it should be available. This is part 2. Last week we just pretty much went over the introduction of the Southeast Woodland Indians. I went through the introduction part, and I went through the first first 3 sessions, I believe. The one about the Southeast Woodlands First People, which they described as a diverse group. That's a way of covering up the fact they were American Aborigines. And then the overview of the archaeological historical data. And I also went over I think those are the parts that I just went over to. It must have been the first 2 parts, the introduction in those 2 sections. So, but this article was, the name of this article is North American Indians, Indians of the Southeast Woodlands. And it's copyrighted by Thomas Gale. I believe that he might have written it, and it's from the Encyclopedia of Religion. So let's scroll back down. I'm going to the part where we left off, which is, I believe, is about the landscape. Contemporary landscape. Here it is. It says here, the Mississippi Choctaw Reservation is about 70 miles northeast of Jackson, mostly in Neshoba County, of approximately 9,000 Choctaw people living there. The majority identify themselves as Christians. While there is a range of denominations, Baptist, Catholic, and Pentecostal denomination dominated. However, people in certain communities, such as the Boog, Choctaw, have steadily maintained their traditions and refused to accept Christianity. Additionally, since the 1970s, there have been a resurgence of interest in distinctively Choctaw culture in Mississippi, where its addition to all-night sings at churches and other community-based events. An annual Choctaw Labor Day festival features social dancing, traditions, crowd foods, stickball, long county music, and other standard attractions. Other activities such as sweat lodges are gaining in popularity, though opinions are mixed as to whether or not this affects the uniqueness of the Choctaw tradition. So Choctaw is another Indian group that is originally American Aboriginal, but now in the federal recognized tribe, you're going to see mostly half-breeds, mixed. Either they look more like Europeans or the Mongoloids, but you're not going to see the original American Aborigine. I believe Chief Warhorse, she's Choctaw with the Choctaw Indians. Let's look them up real quick. I'm going to bring y'all over and see if I can I'm going to put down American Aborigines. Bring y'all over here if y'all can see. And see right here, this is the American Aborigines. You don't see the darker complexion Indians. You're going to see more of the, here it is. I think this is one of the Choctaw tribe. Let's put in Choctaw. Oops. Hope I spelled it right. Choctaw. Let's see if I can find Chief Warhorse on here. Well, I don't see Chief Warhorse on here, but Chief Warhorse, she's the chief of the Choctaw Indians, and she is a chocolate brown complexion. And a lot of the federally recognized right here. This is a perfect example. Oops, I'm going to the video. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, you guys. Let's go back. Okay, I was trying to click on the picture, but here it is. This is Choctaw. This is how they look, but this is what they have in the modern day tribe, the half-breeds, the $5 Indians, in other words. And the $5 Indians are the Caucasians who paid their way into claiming Indian identity, even though they're not the original people. So this example, the Choctaws were originally brown, copper color, bronze complexion people, and this is what you have now in the federal recognized tribes, which is mostly Caucasian and half-breeds, and maybe a few Mongoloids, if there's any in here that are 100% Mongoloid. But yeah, but this is interesting, you guys, and I like how they explained the traditions right here. They talked about the churches, and that's how a lot of our ancestors, our information about our ancestors passed down through the church. And see, since in the past we were prisoners of war, our ancestors, I like to use prisoners of war instead of slavery because that's really a more accurate depiction of what actually took place as opposed to slavery. We didn't just become slaves. No, they fought. We fought. Our ancestors really fought hard to keep our heritage, our land right here, but it was pretty much stolen. So what they did was they went on ahead and indoctrinated the indigenous people and forced Christianity on them. So they weren't allowed to use their customs, original customs. Some tribes weren't. So but some tribes have. And I think it's interesting that the Choctaw was able to keep theirs. And a lot of times the indigenous people used the church in order to keep the traditions going, in order to protect the legacy, through the church. And sometimes you can get some information that way, and that's why it's passed down from the elders. That's how I was able to find out which tribe I was from. It's from my grandmother and my grandfather, on both sides, on my mom and my father's side, the maternal and paternal side of my family. But it says here, similar events also take place on the Qualla boundary in western North Carolina in Squan, in Jackson County, about 60 miles west of Asheville, where approximately 7,000 members of Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, of a total membership of 13,000, support at least 22 churches. Baptist churches are the most numerous, and there are several different holiness tradition churches, as well as those of other dominions. Since the late 20th century, certain townships, though members of the townships are involved, have been in the forefront of an effort to revive the preserve particular cultural elements such as traditional dancing, the green corn ceremony, and the Cherokee language. As we have for centuries, religio-medicinal specialists continue to work and pass on traditions to younger generations. In a manner, traditions such as Intiso and so, the Cherokee ball game and its associated ceremony cycles continue to be maintained in some townships. So I found this interesting. See, this is some of the stuff that we should be looking into. In order to reconnect to our indigenous root, we need to be researching what the indigenous people actually did. Like the green corn ceremony and the Cherokee languages. These are some of the things that we should be learning. I found an interesting website when I was studying Indian names, trying to just doing my research. There's a website also that translate the English language to Cherokee. And it's a great way to start learning and trying to get an idea. And also, you put in the English word that you want to have translated into Cherokee, and it pulls it up. And then I think it also has a button that you can click on to actually get the actual dialect or how it sounds in the Cherokee language, so you have an idea. But these are some of the things that we should be learning and reconnecting to and incorporating into our own lives so we can tap back into it. I think that's what's missing, because the only thing we knew in school is that we were slaves. And then I believe that the indoctrination that was done in school started pretty much with the baby boomers, and my mother is a baby boomer. So I believe the ones that were born in the 1940s. Now, the ones that were born at the beginning of the 40s is the ending of the other generation. I believe they're called the silent generation. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to research. I believe it's the silent generation. The people prior, like right at the very beginning of the 1940s, and the beginning, the end of the 1930s were the silent generation. They were the cutoff point. And so those generations prior to the 1930s knew about the indigenous roots and stuff, and they were able to pass it down to their grandparents. And, born in the early, very beginning part of the 1900s, knew about this. And so they weren't indoctrinated because a lot of them weren't in school. And so since they weren't, they were in school, but they didn't probably go the whole time. A lot of them still had to go and work out in the fields. American Aborigines, a lot of people had to still work. My grandmother, she had to work. I think she went up to 4th grade or something like that. My grandfather on my dad's, that was my mother's side. But my grandfather on my dad's side, I think he said he had to stop working and going to school in 2nd grade because he had to go and work out in the field as a sharecropper, help his family. They were sharecroppers. So, but the ones that are born in the 1940s on down are the ones that were indoctrinated in school and were told all these lies, and they flooded the school system with these books filled with lies about our heritage, and they gave over our heritage. The only thing they mentioned that we were slaves, and that's how we've been brainwashed to believe that we were only slaves. And so that's why it's important that we get our kids, start our the next generation with truths by incorporating in, since it's not in the school's going to continue the legacy of brainwashing. That's why it's important that we have our own activities for our kids, like after school programs, perhaps taking them on field trips of our own. That's why it's important that we have our own schools. And that is based on our indigenous heritage, so that way we can reintroduce ourselves and our children back to the customs that we had. And I believe that is what's missing in the American Aborigine culture, and why we sometimes feel lost and our children feel lost, because we literally been erased. But now that we have knowledge and we're starting to learn this information and picking up stuff from the internet, and being able to look up books and resources and read and learn who we really are, and see the support of scientific evidence that shows that we're here, it enables us to be able to tap back into it. See, if you're Cherokee, you can learn the languages, like I said. You can learn about the cultures, such as the ceremonies that are done. And then up here, the Choctaws have these festivals and events that goes on. And sometimes we can go up there, to these festivals, go to see what they're like, get involved, and start introducing our kids back to our original culture. And I think once we have our identity back in place, we'll see a difference in all of us as a whole, because we have an identity. And when you have identity, you can, create a better future for yourself. You learn from the past, you solve the problem of today, and then you can improve the path for the future. Just saying. But let's go on to the next paragraph. It says, in Alabama, approximately 1,500 Miccosukee people, if I'm pronouncing it right, I'm not sure, but I'm going to check, of approximately 2,200 members, predominantly associated in the Protestant domination, including Baptist, Holiness, and Episcopal churches. They reside near Porch, Alabama, in Cambria County, 57 miles east of Mobile. In recent decades, specialists from Oklahoma have been retained to revive various cultural activities, including the Miccosukee language and sweat bath activities. Religio-medicinal specialists have continued to work in this community as well. And see, this is really interesting. I never heard of this tribe before. Right here, Miccosukee, and that's a different part of Alabama. And see, like I said, a lot of these things, the remnants of our heritage is in the church. And that's why we need to start going back digging and talking. And also talking to the elders. We can get a lot of information. You don't want the information from the elders to die with them. It's important to get it while they're living. That's the key. That is definitely the key. And then it says, at the beginning of the 21st century, approximately 1,200 to 1,500 Seminole and Miccosukee people in Florida, many 3 reservations, Brenton, northwest of Lake Okeechobee, Big Cypress, the northeast bridge of Big Cypress Swamp, and Dania or Hollywood, outside of Hollywood, Florida. Perhaps 15 and 20% do not officially affiliate with either tribal entity. According to the source, approximately 60% of Seminole people in Florida are non-Christian. Today, they are known as Seminole tribe. Though initially considered by the federal government as just a splinter Seminole group, the Miccosukee tribe of Florida gained a corporate charter and drafted Constitution in 1961, and they established separately in 1965 along with the Miami Trail Highway. The Miccosukee people distinguished themselves from Seminole culturally. The Hittite language, Ilaponki, is spoken by about 3/3 of the larger group, with the rest speaking Miccosukee. Miccosukee. I'm pronouncing it right. But anyway, I think that's really interesting here. And it's talking about the Seminole. I hear about the Seminole a lot. And 60%, I'm not surprised. A lot of people don't, if you understand the history about the indoctrination of Christianity, that is why the indigenous people, a lot of Indians um, don't don't practice Christianity because it's not part of their heritage or culture, and plus they know that it's actual brainwashing technique to get us to support great supremacy. And so I'm not surprised at the numbers at all. I wouldn't be surprised if it'll be a little bit higher, especially with the younger generation, because a lot of younger people are getting this knowledge and learning it, especially through the internet, and learning and growing from it, and realizing that what had happened in the past. And once you start knowing what happened in the past, it makes you realize, hey, we need to do something different. And that's what a lot of them are doing right now. I see that in my son. He's Generation Y. The new generation is coming up. They are seeing things from a different light and from a bigger perspective, because a lot of things have been hidden for so long. And now it's being exposed. And let me see how long this one is. I wasn't intending, like I said, a lengthy article. It has some really, really interesting information here. Let's see here. The next topic right here, going into another topic, is supernatural and other than human beings. It says here, and this is like really interesting right here. It says many first people of the Southeast reference a supreme being, but often the term connotes a more abstract power, force, or perpetuity. These being and entities entities can be beseeched for assistance and are considered important forces in many people's lives. Through different terms, it can be used to refer to them, a select few, or the Cherokee term. Translated as provider, from the verb to provide, or translated creator. Okay. He's breaking down the meaning of the tribes. And then Miccosukee terms translate as breath and holder, master of breath, or breathe. Wow. I think this is interesting. And the Bonofanga, Bofanga tribe translate as existence of all things and energy within all things, or the ones above us. This is really deep. Oh my gosh, I didn't know all this meaning. See, this has all the what the meaning of each tribes mean, and they're very spiritual, very very beautiful, actually. Very insightful. See, I need to write this down. This is really, really, really good information right here. It teaches you the origins and what it means. But Cherokee, creator, wow, provider, interesting. Let's draw down. Now they're translating some more tribe meaning. And see, and when you see these things, and you see how deep in meaning the tribal words mean, it's like our ancestors really put some time and thought into what you're calling yourself. That's what I said. It goes back to languages. It's very important what words we use to describe ourselves. And that goes back to the human labeling system. We call ourselves Black, and we're not Black. And Black, I broke that down in another video, how it has a negative connotation. What you describe yourself makes a difference. And if you claim your indigenous roots in your tribe, which is like, I'd rather be called a creator. It's beautiful. And then in the other one here with the other tribe, breathe holder, master of breath. Isn't that beautiful? And this other one, the Ebofanga, and it says here, this other tribe says the existence of all things and energy within all things, the one above us. It's very spiritual and very deep in meaning. And so, and when you speak these deep terms among yourself, it makes a big difference. Positive terms. That's why I said that's why it's a beautiful thing to reconnect to our indigenous roots, because you're speaking more positive flow of energy to yourself. But here it says the Choctaw term, an entity most often cited, Hashvatinli, and it's translated as great spirit. See, wow, with the comment that is this term was a pre-Christian concept. Exactly. A lot of this information, these tribes are before Christ, it's before Christianity, before the Greys. And the Greys created Christianity to be a distraction for us. But like I said, we need to get a more deeper sense of who we are through our spirituality that predates Christianity, which is our ancestors. And that's what's missing, I think, and that's what's keeping us in chaos. We'll come into full alignment once we do that. Come back to our original source. And it says, according to one source, it's also translated governor of the world, whose eyes is the sun. Both these terms are terms of sun. Now, Napespi, Nanapisa, the one who sees, expressed the distinction of the sun that was an aspect of more abstract force that is not that in and of itself a deity or focus of worship. Similarly, the Chickasaw term for supernatural being, Luke Ishu Hola Aba, is translated as the great holy fire above. Wow. See? Nash test. I like how they describe these terms of the supernatural, the creator. And it says supernatural being is Luka Isha Ho Abba, is translated as the great holy fire above. The Nash test term, I believe those are in the Mississippi, is Ushua Ista, like Uashite, as big fire. Wow. This is really interesting. Really interesting. Supreme beings. Force, beseech, instead of forces of many people's lives. I like how they describe these forces. It's not the meaning. It's just amazing how they describe the Most High. And a lot of it is how we feel deep down to the side of our core, who we are. That's why we're considered very spiritual people. But I think we're targeting our spiritual energy towards the wrong way. Everything has been taught to us in reverse, and we're doing everything opposite. And that's why it's a lot of disarray and chaos, and we need to go back to nature. That's why I think. And yeah. And it says here, cultural narratives often are populated by a variety of other beings that may be more regularly involved with humans or beseech for assistance. They are not worshipped but are respected for their powers and ability, both positive and negative. Define characteristics as good or evil. They have the capacity to help as well as harm humans, especially if they are not treated with proper respect. Wow, it's interesting how they break down. And so let's just touch on some of their beliefs and mindset. It says these may be natural elements and archetypal forms of animals or human-like beings, such as corn woman. Never heard of that. I have to check that out. And it says, depending on the religious systems, natural phenomena, including the sun, thunders, and running bodies of water, such as rivers and streams, are considered sentient beings. And that's when it goes back to the beliefs that things that we, Western societies consider inanimate, does not an organism or a living being, that's not living. I mentioned in another video how we see a rock. In Western society, they say it's just a rock. But when the indigenous people see the rock, there's more to it. It's actual living being. And everything is interconnected with each other. And then, like I said, mentioned the meanings for the running waters, the rivers, and the streams, and how everything is connected. And yeah, like Chief Seattle, he had a beautiful description of what nature is and how everything is interconnected. I mentioned him in one of my videos that I've done earlier. I can't remember what the name of the video, but when I mentioned Chief Seattle, how he explains how he did a beautiful description of how everything is interconnected with each other and how we need to perceive nature as a living being as opposed to just a thing, something that's not living and not valued nor appreciated. And it's quite obvious in how we treat the earth. And then you say here, all of these beings can be understood as other than human persons. A use, A. Irvin Howell's term from his seminal article on Ojibwa traditions. And then that's the end. I'm going to stop here, you guys. I'm going to just do these 2 sessions for now. And we'll come back to the rest. And I just want to touch on it. But I just find this quite interesting. That's why it's important that we read the folklores and the stories that's been passed down from generation to generation about the indigenous heritage and the roots. So, we can learn from it and get more insight and beliefs and read it to our children so they'll know. These are traditions and customs that we can pass down to our family. The stories, and a lot of some of them have true meaning, moral values behind them that we can actually incorporate into daily lives and living. And learning the different perspectives there are to valuing nature. That's not taught in the classroom, but it's something that we can teach our children for future generations to come. So maybe they'll have a better view of the world and how we must protect the environment. But anyway, I would love to see what you all think about this video, and what do you think about learning more about your customs, the traditions of the indigenous heritage. Do you think it's important? Do you think that's what's missing among American Aborigines, aka African Americans? What do you think about the spiritual meanings that the American Aborigines had of the Most High? Do you think it has any significance? Do you think a lot of the information is in the church and with the elders that are living? And I just want to see what you all think about all of this. And yeah. And just keep your put your comments below. I would love to hear from you. And till next time, peace, family, love, and peace. Bye-bye.